I'm showing an alert from Rasputin that a Warsat unit is about to crash in the Cosmodrome.
Che non c'è come vai via.
Boom.
Thank you. Warlock. Let's go roll out for me.
Relative on the scale, it's much less than the performance, battery life, and all those other things we talked about. But I think it's a non-trivial one that's not getting enough talk here. Not having a fan in there is a great innovation for laptops.
Yeah, and I think Windows users and Microsoft fans will really want to hear from which came out last year, and it's a big fanfare volleyball service lineup and hard. And if you look at the pricing for Surface Pro X and how interesting where it's positioned, it's so different compared to how Apple's launching their chips. Microsoft didn't do there was some custom stuff there that they worked with Qualcomm for the SQ1 processor, but it was basically it wasn't a wholehearted transition, right? It was like, okay, we made Windows on ARM, we have Android apps running here, and now we're going to give you an ARM-based version of Windows laptop. Much like one of the very first Surfaces, they had ARM version. It's like this Pro X, a callback to that, premium design, with a long battery life, performance-wise compromised because of the app compatibility stuff, but also expensive. While on the Mac side, they are just seamlessly transitioning, not even calling out that this is an ARM-based MacBook. It's just MacBook Air. That's the only MacBook Air you can get. And if you want to have the MacBook Pro 13-inch, long battery life, all the battery life, that's one you get.
The expensive was already part of the brand, so that wasn't a shift there. The thing about the Surface Pro that you're talking about is like within a week of it coming out, there's all sorts of stories about bugs and issues with like software having problems. We're seeing none of that in the early reviews. So either Apple just nailed it, and all the things that Will brought up last week of reasons why you wouldn't buy a first generation MacBook with a new processor, because you're going to get all of those weird ports and issues and bugs that happen when you have a new processor. They haven't shown up yet. That isn't to say they're not coming in the coming weeks, but Apple's avoided that early on. That makes this a big deal, because if you couldn't run Premiere without some bugs, or if people are having problems with Photoshop or video editing or like anything, we're not hearing any of that at this point. And I think that's just a huge testament.
There's also a different angle to consider when you're talking about don't buy first-gen Apple products. There's the position that Will's coming from right now, using the Apple Watch, which is the first-gen, even regarding the first iPhone, is that the first-gen was quickly eclipsed, so quickly eclipsed it came obsolete by the second gen. When they ramped up production, they ramped up expertise.
Power to Cosmo Ops. We have a fallen Arsenal catch approaching your position.
3G and iPhone 4, much better buys. And a lot of people, those were their first iPhone. Same with the Apple Watch, 0, so expensive. The question here, I don't think that these MacBooks are going to be completely obsolete. And the question really is, looking at the technology, what is the ramp up look like? And will the performance gains as the M series chips mature, as M2 comes out, whatever it is next year, will be that much better in terms of performance, maybe not battery life? Because I think the Apple style is establish a battery life for minor products and then ramp up performance and maybe shrink the size, form factor, whatever, power. So alongside that, will M2 next year less than 35? This year, it has an expectation.
I don't know where they're going to get that extra battery. Really, if you're looking at this early, you're looking at what feels obsolete. Like the iPad for 99 is a Mac Pro. There's a couple of weeks ago. Those are the things that feel obsolete right now. So, I totally understand where a lot of people are about Apple products, but like tech conception and that's early on. Again, just all this their caveats to explain. I don't think manufacturing technology is 5 nanometer in technical process here. There's a cheap shop. Every memory can share all side. GPU and CPU all share the same band of memory. You can benefit from that like the 16 gigs right now on the Pro systems. And I could see as they really start supplanting and phasing out Intel, see what the MacBook Pro 15 with the associated price and expectations of that caliber price of machine, with a $2,000, $3,000 MacBook Pro running ARM, like there's got to be 32 gig, 64 gig memory option, and also what the ecosystem of applications look like going forward. Right? Obviously, Adobe's of the world are already porting over to ARM, and they're going to make the machines of today, the M1s of today, are all about expanding this system. 100%. I fully accept M2 whenever it comes out here, 18 months from now. Everything is going to mostly be about the software that gets matured between that, and then they'll put in a 1080p webcam, and people will be like, "Oh my goodness, finally!"
World of Warcraft is the only other launch partner for natively run apps on ARM. Everything else is run the two because they don't have to compatibility there. Much better life as we think about layer. I think the people who really lost out, people who bought the MacBooks again last week or last month, and maybe last holiday season, if you splurged on a MacBook Air, that's looking a little bit like a regretful purchase unless you. But you know what? You got through 2020 using that computer, and I think that's if there's any year to really leverage use of the laptop at home. All right, let's move on to our next segment. I think I'm going to make a tradition for the next 5 weeks for us to start off with some Mando talk. Mando talk.
Absolutely. I get that it's not everyone's coming, but injected straight for the thing.
Oh my god. Okay. I think you listened to the conversation that we had, that I, Jeremy, and Will had last week. Would you agree, if you go back 1 week, that the second episode really brought it in terms of the effects, but in terms of the creature design, felt high production?
About 2 weeks ago, I was saying that I wasn't into this Monster of the Week, and then immediately got a Monster of the Week episode. And I flipped. I really enjoyed episode 2. It felt like it did what great sci-fi westerns of the past have done, like Firefly, where they take you to another world, to let you explore. It's not meant to necessarily do anything that furthers huge plot lines, but you see more development of the main characters. Yes, we didn't get a ton out of Baby Yoda. We got Baby Yoda comic relief, but we saw Mando more under pressure, and for the first time, I think in a long time, we saw Mando up against it. Like, there was no answers.
Yeah, but there was no way. It felt terrifying. It was one of those, it felt perilous, and the resolve of it felt satisfyingly unresolved. You know what I mean, right? Like, it wasn't a reset by the end of the episode. It left things open, and also, you know, they survived. Obviously, that's not a big spoiler, but they're not in the same state. And this third episode continued right into that.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, even though we've gotten a lot of fan service in these episodes, a lot of callbacks, especially to Clone Wars and Rebels and other things, it doesn't feel like I'm getting beaten over the head with it. Where they're like, look at this fan thing, and like they just do it to me as much as they did in episode 1. Dave Filoni in episode 2 was great. I love the utilization of him in that role. But episode 3 is like more like meat and potatoes. Like, now we're furthering the story. We're calling back to season 1. We're pushing some elements. I could do without any more threatening Baby Yoda anymore. Any sea creatures trying to eat the child. Baby Yoda must be protected at all costs. I have one question.
Spoiler right next 5 minutes.
Friend of Ted. What? Friend of Ted?
Yeah, according to Twitter and Instagram, Frank Energy did the Mon Calamari mask. They did a great job because those weren't puppeted eyes, and so they were static eyes, but they still gave enough personality and life to those characters, background and foreground. And apparently it was Frank Lito as the dog. Not his voice, I believe, but the sweater wearing, the casual knitwear Mon Calamari. People are already debating, you know, what they want these sweaters. It doesn't matter. It's Star Wars, it's fantasy. They're sunlight speed, go to friends, deal with it.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with everything that we saw there. I love the limited universe. Like, we got a mission village. I feel like that adds to like the Star Wars lore. We're used to seeing, we got Forest Moon, we got Cold Planet, we got Tropical Jungle. Now we have something new, and I actually really enjoyed going somewhere different. I would say the only thing about this episode that I found a little wasted is like the Empire
Titus Welliver.
leader. What's his name? He's such a Titus Welliver. I feel like he did not get much room to be the Titus Welliver that we know.
I agree with that. We're full spoilers now. This one tightly woven and even written by John Favreau, but you can see the Dave Filoni influences here, especially with the Bo-Katan and the new Mandalorians from Clone Wars. I watched this as someone who did not watch Clone Wars and had to do the Wikipedia research afterward, but still felt super satisfying because you could immediately tell these three Mandos have a different philosophy. They have a history behind them. They fought with more confidence. When they were raiding the ship, they were just marching down those corridors, blasting those stormtroopers. They got a tight-knit squad, and Mando, even though he had his hero moment at the end, he was behind them, right? He was a little bit of more of a scrappy gunslinger.
I loved how so much character development happened for Mandalorian in like a couple sentences, where Bo-Katan talked about like the religious sect that he's part of, and how much that just like transformed who he was, who has been this loner this whole time, to being lonely now. Like that he's off on his own. Even his own people aren't the people he thought they were. And I thought that was a great, subtle transformation that's going to play out in episodes to come. And so, even though he's found his people, they aren't his people. The outsiders, I think, allows them to coordinate in interesting ways. And then we got everything. If you watch Clone Wars, we got such a payoff with the one Kate Sackhoff line, calling back to the Darksaber, which is where it was left at the end of Clone Wars, is that Bo-Katan had
right. And I love that when she said, "This is the way," it was a creeper. She subverted his line, and brought it back. They got their symbolic fist bump at the end. One more shout out, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and people on Twitter have pointed out that the opening scene of Razor Crest descending onto the planet flames was almost shot for shot, paying homage to Apollo 13 and the entry scene that, of course, her father was from. So glad they brought her back as a director.
Yeah, you can see on Twitter some side-by-side shots of those scenes, and I initially was like, really? And then you look at them side-by-side, and they are exactly the same. It's
Turning on the spoiler light, two more bits of Disney Plus news. First off, WandaVision, the first Marvel MCU Disney Plus show, is now pushed to January or mid-January launch. I think they have a mid-January 15th date now. I'm fine waiting. Soul is going to tide me over, I think, in terms of Disney Plus content.
It's not really pushed back that much, and in fact, this is like the kind of opposite order that we initially expected. We expected Falcon and Winter Soldier to come out first. I think it was supposed to be before the pandemic, sometime like August. It was supposed to come out, and obviously that got pushed back because it has much more of a different shooting style and schedule and needs. So I'm excited to get back into a Marvel world because, I think things are going to come fast. Like as we kind of exit the pandemic next year, all of a sudden there's going to be this batch of films that hit theaters. So I think this is hitting like a good sweet spot in those few months before any of that stuff really happens and kind of starts building up that Marvel train again. I've like totally lost any context or train of thought around what this new Marvel 2.0 universe is going to be about. So I'm excited what they're going to do, and this show's going to be weird. And that's what I'm excited about.
Eras they tap into, who knows how it's going to tie in to Doctor Strange. Interesting that they can separate tracks as Falcon Winter Soldier and swap. So what is the Disney Plus TV show equivalent of the post-credit scene for a TV show? I don't know. Very excited to find out all these things come.
I don't know what I'm doing here, guys, so I'm trying to organize something here.
Disney Plus short documentary series about Pixar Animation Studios. The first theme is inspiration, and it profiles, I believe, 6 employees at Pixar working departments, from writing to character design to music, and leading the story, about giving you insights into films like Soul coming out, past films like Incredibles, and then also the film I think they've announced now, Luca, which is coming out after that as well. Wonderful, charming look at the people who work at Pixar, and it really, I think, got me excited for Soul specifically. It really bummed out that it's not going to be in theaters. I'm happy to watch it at home. It's a movie I really feel like I deserve to be seen in theaters. I really wish I could see it in theaters. Crossing fingers that Wonder Woman 1984 is not going to go 2 weeks in theaters on HBO Max, which is great. Speaking of home theatrical experiences, I think there's still time, maybe, but when you're listening to this, to take part in the Doc NYC Virtual Film Festival and buy a ticket to rent a screening of In and of Itself, the Derek Delgadio show from New York that we've gushed about. Kishore, you and I both rented this day it came out, watched it over the weekend. I don't want to go to spoilers, but I do want to ask you.
I don't even know how you spoil that show.
Talk about the tricks specifically.
I mean, there's things you could say, but it's a very personal show, so it's hard to spoil because it means different things to different people.
Absolutely. I think the thing that we can say is that for a show that was meant to be seen in person in this small theater with a couple hundred people, it's 2 hours, 6 tricks. They found a way to encapsulate much of that experience successfully in film form that feels both like a representation of that show as well as a documentary about a more personal documentary about his life. So it's not a documentary format; it's a show film, but done in a way that is less like the Netflix comedy special, magic special, where you're just watching straight through. And there are cuts between the different performances, which I think are used to really good effect here.
Yeah, and I'll say I think this is my favorite piece of theater I've seen in the last 10 years. It was the most moving, touching, different piece of theater I saw. And I know I'm raising expectations. This did not live up to the in-theater experience. I don't know how you could. But it was close. It was surprising. It was closer than I thought it would. And seeing there was famous people in the audience that you see as cameos. That's funny. My friend Kate, Adam, and I have a mutual friend that was shown in this documentary. Is incredible to see what felt like this incredible production, but have it feel so.
The recommendation that we would have given people
love it
to when they would have seen the show in person, which is to go there, be honest and earnest, and put away your cynicism for 2 hours and be truthful to yourself, which is part of the show experience. I think that the same recommendation applies to people watching this. If you watch this film with that type of mindset, I think it will impact you more and you'll feel more. And that's really what coming out of Hulu early next year, and hopefully have a chance to pick that up. Derek Delgadio, Frank Oz directed this film.
And I don't know if I told this, but when I saw it in person, Frank Oz was sitting 2 people over watching the show, and I was just sitting there, I turned somewhere in the middle of the show because I almost needed a break from what was happening, and I turned I can't be Frank Oz, and then towards the end of the show, that's Frank Oz. It was, because Frank Oz is, giant. Well, he's a large, tall man, and yeah, exactly. It is very clear. Our last bit of pop culture is
20 Guardians in range.
Legos.
We've got hostiles in the area. Coordinates marked.
Lego Ecto 1, $200, not $300. That's on sale now on Lego.com. I have not pulled the trigger on that yet. Still thinking about it. It's beautiful though. 18-inch long. Large mini scale, big. But they also announced their largest set ever. So previously Taj Mahal, largest ever. Then a couple years ago by the Millennium Falcon, UCS, which is still available at $800. And now the Lego Coliseum at 9,000 pieces.
I'm excited about this, only because the Coliseum's repetitive.
So I read some of the reviews, and I think that people said they've done their best both the color differentiation in terms of the way you build this level to make it interesting and not repetitive. But you're right, it is going to be less of an interesting build because you're not building recognizable different parts of a thing, right? You're building pillars of a Coliseum, and it is architecture. But it's $550 and 9,000 pieces is so many. It's crazy, and it's so big too. I think the whole thing dimensionally is like 2 feet wide. I don't know where you would put it, right? 24-inch deep by 20 by 10 inches high. That's a massive.
When I built the Taj Mahal, I didn't know what to do with it. And I built it by myself. It took like a week for that many pieces. I mean, I wasn't like going like gung ho about it. I was doing it over like a holiday break, but that's an intense build. 9,000 pieces. That is a massively intense build.
Also, like, it's not the same as a pop culture build. It's architecture. Yes, it's a wonder of the world, but it's not something that people would be unless you literally have this this resonance with the same way that you have a meal or Christmas or something. But 9,000 pieces. Not for me, but it's going to be out there. All right, moving on to technology. We're going to keep it rather short this week. Let's talk a little bit about Black Friday. Now, I know Black Friday has changed for you, Kishore. Obviously, 2020 makes it different. But even last year, you were less excited about Black Friday and what it meant. Is that feeling echoed this year as well?
So I have strange feelings about it this year. So, I mean, obviously, given the situation here in the U.S., you can't really go to stores. The pandemic is kind of raging everywhere. So Black Friday is more online than it ever has been before. But given the state of how things are going, retailers are more, I would say, almost desperate for
Hey, I have no clue what I'm doing, dude.
in this period than they have before. So I
hear
think
me?
there's actually going to be a wider range of deals and opportunities than what you've seen in years past, where they're specifically making like almost like lower end kind of stuff to offload during Black Friday. I still think that's going to be the case, but I think you're going to see some deals, especially from smaller retailers, on stuff that you haven't seen before. So I actually think I'm interested in this year's Black Friday, but I don't have a big purchase to make. Because the thing I was most interested in as a big purchase was a console, and I can't get a console. Get that? That's not a thing. That's it. There, and the other big purchase I had was a 3080, and I got it, beforehand. So at this point, I'm not looking for big ticket items, but I do think there's going to be some interesting stuff out there. I'm definitely heavily investing in games this time around, so I'm going in on the Miles Morales game, the PS4 version, because I don't have PS4 yet. And then there's a new Zelda game, hack and slash game, Hyrule Warriors, that's actually out this Friday. And Breath of the Wild was my favorite game on Switch. It's maybe my favorite game of this decade. And so I'm excited to get more of that backstory filled in, and I think it's probably going to be a bridge to Breath of the Wild 2, even though the gameplay is completely different, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where I'm heading towards. And I think somewhere late one night, I'm just going to break down and buy the Quest 2. It's just going to happen. The price I'm just I'm opening myself up to it.
Let it overuse, especially with all the content coming out for it. You can't buy an Xbox Series X. You can't buy PS5. PS5 is $300 for Quest 2. He's not on the podcast, but I will call him out and say he paid me to ask if I would play Population 1 with him later this evening, and I said, no, I'm recording the podcast that you should be on. He's working. He's actually working right now. But I'm going to try deal hunting for present for my parents, looking for new dicing. technology they could use, and those are typically very expensive, so they do get slash prices. And then I'll probably do some PC upgrades. I'll probably get not more RAM, because I've already at 64 gigs, but storage. So nice Samsung drive or SSD.
Yeah, I think SSD. I think it's a good time to get an SSD. I'm nervous for a lot of retailers. I think that a lot of retailers, like, this has been a tough year for them, and they're going to be riding the razor's edge here. So I actually hope people, if they're able, actually spend some money, especially keep some of those smaller retailers afloat, because Amazon's going to do fine, especially with a fully online Black Friday. So I'm not worried about the big boys like that, but the smaller retailers, I'm going to try to put.
And oftentimes, the thing you buy for the holiday season, the thing you want to do things with, and I think it's probably a really great year for people to start looking at the 3D printers. They don't have one yet, and my eyes really got opened up to this year. Relax, and Mars 2 Pro right now, so for that in a couple weeks, but for $300 or less, you're gonna get a really high quality MSLA printer. Spend money on some miniatures, or gaming tabletop miniatures. You can spend the holiday season printing things. Buy some Patreons, buy some on my minifig, Monkey Factory, and support 3D model curves and get something cool that you can paint and have something tangible. That's my recommendation. Yeah.
For the first time, I actually regret having a smaller print pen. I have a Prusa i3 MK3S, which is awesome. It's a perfect printer for me. I don't use it enough, but because I just don't get many print failures, it just stuff works, and it's hard to